This is Janet Gallen welcoming you to another Love Letters Live. And I just met my guest for the first time a second ago on this Zoom. And we're going to have a good time, I can tell. My guest today is Terri Jay, and you are a medium and a seer and it's so complicated what you do. And you've done so many things that I barely know where to start, which is usually not my problem. So let me just start introducing Terri Ray. Why don't you say hello? And you define what you do if you can in a few words.
My last name's Jay, Terri Jay,
Mhm.
just so you know. I'm an intuitive medium, intuitive life coach, veterinary and medical intuitive, remote viewer, map dowser, animal communicator, horse whisperer. Pretty much I do everything except predictions and police work.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to have to start somewhere. Let me ask you just a question. How old were you when you knew you had this gift? If
Well,
I may.
they're not gifts, Janet. These are abilities that everybody's born with, and everybody turns them off in childhood.
Okay,
So I would say I got my opening back in 1990 when I was doing horseback therapy, and I picked a kid up out of his wheelchair and put him on the back of one of the horses, and he said, "Ouch, I have a cramp in my hip." So I looked at him and I said, "You have a cramp? Well, here, sit this way. It'll take the cramp out." And he said, "Hey, you can hear me." And I said, "Well, of course I can hear you." It didn't dawn on me at the time that he's completely nonverbal.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my first opening, and we went about our business, and I took him off the horse, and he went back to class, and the gal that was helping me said, "Boy, he's sure talking great." I said, "Well, he's very bright. Just because he has CP doesn't necessarily mean he has any cognitive issues."
Right.
And she looked at me and she said, "Terri, he didn't say a word. You can't remember?" And I went, "Whoa."
Okay,
So
well,
then,
let me ask you something about, okay, two things. When you say everybody is born with, I've always believed that there are certain people who are spiritually very sophisticated.
nope.
And you're saying that everybody is born with something, but we let it go?
Yes, we turn it off.
For
So
what
we're
reason?
Well, because usually we get in trouble. We're little kids and we point to the wall and say, "Grandpa, Grandpa," and they go, "No, no, Grandpa's in heaven." And then
Oh,
and then there's even the stuff about stop lying. There isn't somebody there, that
right,
we
right.
spook our parents. And so we're forced to turn it off or ignore it.
You know,
And so,
I have noticed that with children. I read an article once. This is like right to what you're saying about written by a psychologist,
uh-huh,
very smart woman who was talking about when children talk about an imaginary friend or seeing grandpa.
that's
And
right.
this woman said, I'm guessing you'll agree with this, that don't assume it's an imaginary friend. Maybe this child is seeing something that you
Yes.
can't. I believe
Exactly,
that. Mhm.
exactly. And then I think as parents, I mean, if this happens, and I'm actually working with somebody right now whose 5-year-old is saying the horse said, and of course they research it and find out, yes, that is the problem with the horse. So
Wow.
she's 5 and doing this. So
So
I'm
you
working.
so animals do want to make themselves known. I mean, I have just recently a dog, an old dog, and I can tell from the
Mhm,
way this little dog looks at me
mhm.
that they find ways to communicate.
They do. They
And
really do. And
but
it's just different. It's a visual image, a taste, a smell, a sound, a feeling. I'm always apologizing to animals because they say, where dog look like this, or where dogs smell like this. And I go, nose not work, how dog look. And then they give me a visual image of the dog. And then it's like, oh, I know who they're talking about. So, scent is their first thing. Even with the horses, it's their first thing. And so we have to learn to adjust to receive the information in a different way.
okay, so there you go. Would you like to talk for a minute about how we need to adjust, or at least talk about how you know to adjust to get information from an animal who is, happy or suffering or has a need unmet?
The biggest thing that we do wrong is we get too much, and I'm going to use the word ego. We get too much into ego, like, oh, here's my question. Da, 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 da. And when we had the first 2 words out, mentally, the animals already responded because they're all telepathic. Nobody's told them, hey, don't be telepathic. And that's just a conglomeration of intuition, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, and claircognizance. It's a combination of all of those together. And so we just need to listen faster. And if you get a
Ah,
visual image or you get a smell or something.
okay. Speed is important. So pace is important, by the
Yes.
way, in communication across the board.
Yes.
And
And
I read once, which really guided me in many, that if people say what you think about this, I read that people understand at about the same rate as they speak. So if you're speaking to somebody who is, a slow, thoughtful speaker, or just for some reason, a very slow, and you're talking like I do, just at a mile limit, goodbye, they're not with you.
no, they're
And
not
same
at
the
all.
other way. So to tailor your speech to their speech will maximize your chances of being understood.
Yes, absolutely. But it's the thing with animals, they're all telepathic. They don't know we're not. I mean, sometimes they'll go, whoa,
Yes,
I got something from my human.
right.
And
Or you get this look from some little
right.
uh-huh. Or
So we just have to listen faster. They don't know the rules of polite conversation. And what's so fascinating to me is when you have a nonverbal child on the spectrum,
uh-huh.
they communicate like animals. And that's not a slam or anything. It's just that they're going to give you a visual image or a picture of something before they're going to give you a word. Words don't mean anything to a lot of them. They have that, it's a communication disorder
Right. And
coupled with
I think, well,
bizarre behavior.
with animals, would you say that I mean, if we're frightened or we're angry or we're particularly happy, or we emit different scent.
Yes, yes, but they're also picking up on the energies. I mean, this is really freaking physics. It is. It's just
Oh, energy.
physics.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
how do you translate this to human beings? And I understand that you do a certain amount by telephone, but I'm wondering, do you ever look at handwriting as a clue?
No.
You don't
I
need
don't
to.
I don't get any handwriting because everything's done with email. I set all my appointments through
Oh,
email.
now. Okay.
Yeah. And the weirdest part is when I go to do an animal in person, I usually if it's a horse, I'm going to get within 50 yards and turn my back. And the owners go, don't you want to go out? And no, I'm good right here. I just want to read the energies. Because if I go look at a horse,
Uh-huh.
I'm a professional horse person. I've been one my whole life.
What does that mean, a professional horse
I've
person?
made my living with horses my whole life.
How? I mean, where were you raised? And
Well, I was raised back in northeastern Ohio and I moved to Nevada, I think in 76, and then moved up to northwestern Nevada. I'm, one valley over from Lake Tahoe. And I moved up here in 86. So um, it's just been a journey, but um,
what do you do with horses?
right now I just trail ride. I'm retired from doing anything other than readings.
No, I
So,
understand that, but did you train horses? Did you breed them? Did you?
all of it.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely all of it. But mostly I did the horseback therapy program off and on for 35 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's, loading and hauling and going to the schools and doing the program. And, we did 800 kids a week. That's a
Wow.
lot. Yeah.
That is.
Because we do 30 and 40 kids at schools, and we'd pick up at lunchtime and go to a different school and do more kids. And so, that gives you an awful lot of experience. It really does.
You're recalling to mind one of my love letters live guests many, many years ago. When it came to who she would write a love letter to, she wanted to write a love letter to her horse.
Mhm.
She had a horse, and she said, which has stuck with me, and it's been probably 14 years now since I heard it. She said, my horse was the only, well, she said person, he was the only one who ever listened to me.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was in a family that was difficult for her, but she had a
Right.
horse who listened to her.
They do. They do. What I
Yeah.
love about horses is their heart chakra is like 4 feet away from their body. So you go stand under their neck, and oh my goodness, it's an incredible experience to feel the energy of their heart. It is.
Really? Well, tell me, let's translate this to human beings, because I read about, in reading about you, Paul T. Goldman. What is that story about? Can you just tell us that?
Yeah, I'll give you the cliff notes. Paul called me in
Now,
2005.
now who is he?
Pardon?
Tell us who he is and how he came to you.
Paul T. Goldman, he was a client previously for a lost dog. And so
Oh, I see.
he figured that, I could help him with this issue too. But he called me and said that his brand new bride was insisting on having her name put on all of his assets. And I said, God, it's like she wants to get paid for sex, but she doesn't want the money on the dresser. She wants your stuff. And he said, it's my wife. I said, I don't care. I said, I don't think she is who she said she is.
Now,
And so
what
that's
made you come to that?
just this is what I do. I read people. And so it started him going in a totally different direction to try to figure out who she really was. And that's what this story is all about.
Can you
It's
tell
not,
us more of that story?
well, just what he goes through, hiring a private detective and getting an attorney to get a divorce. And, all the records that got subpoenaed for that divorce were just mind boggling. She had a separate address. She had separate phone lines, and you could tell that she had a business on the side. So,
And you made him aware of that. So yes. How did she respond? How did she respond to all this?
oh, absolute denial, absolute denial. But she kept trying to bilk him out of money. She made up a business and got a fictitious firm name, and told him she needed money for something, and it was really just going to her. And so he caught her, doing that kind of stuff.
So the marriage came to an end, and how is he
Oh
now?
yeah. He's doing great. He's still looking for romance. He really is. But he's such a nice guy.
Oh, now, because of this, what lessons do people learn? Does he know now what to look for or how to find clues that are red flags?
I don't know. I don't think anybody could pull something over on him again, but he misses some social clues.
Mm-hmm.
He misses social clues. And so he's such a nice guy. I mean, we've been able to meet a couple times. He lives in Florida. I live in northwestern Nevada.
Right.
And so we've, run into each other down in LA for, for the
Oh,
filming, for the premiere. It's just really been
now
fun.
talk about that, the filming and the premiere of.
Well, it's for this series that's on Peacock. And so they shipped me down there to watch Dee
Let's back
Wallace.
up a little. What's the title of it and what does it focus on? Let us know.
It's Paul T. Goldman. That's the title of it. It's on Peacock. All of the 6 episodes are now available. I'm a lot in the 3rd one and a little bit in the 4th one. Anyway, it's about Paul's, trying to find a bride, trying to find a wife, and what he runs into in the process.
How did he go about trying to find a wife?
He actually went to Russia and got a Russian bride.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. Yeah. And then that fell apart. And so
he actually went there to find a bride.
Yes. Yeah, he did. And that's how he found his first wife. And then they had their son Johnny, and his that fizzled out, and they got divorced, and that's when he was on a dating site and found Audrey, the one that was not who she said she was.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just sort of the story of the adventure of what he went through, because instead of just having this breakup, it ended up leading to this, basically crime family syndicate or whatever.
Oh, really?
Not crime family, but a lot of people were saying they were doing what they said they were, but they weren't doing that. They were doing something completely opposite.
Now this is a bigger problem now via the internet, getting truth. And has your demand for your services increased a lot since internet life?
If it wasn't for the internet, I probably wouldn't have a business. I would have to just do local stuff.
No, I realize that part, but I'm just wondering, because people can be scammed so easily via the internet and these dating sites. I mean, so here I am, a girl, and I am getting constant emails from a Russian beauty,
Sure.
Russian beauty I'm a Russian beauty. I'd like to meet you.
Oh yeah, I get those
all
too.
These sexual invitations.
It's ridiculous, but there's so many lonely people, and it makes them vulnerable.
Yes.
It makes them vulnerable when they're lonely. So You got to make your life where you are. And I really, I advise my clients, don't do long distance. It doesn't work. It's
Oh,
not going to work.
good. Okay.
If you meet somebody online, you better meet them in person within 48 hours or
And why
just
do you have
don't
that
go
time
there.
limit?
Because there's too many people. There's so many married people on these dating sites, and they
Oh,
just want that communication to be titillating. So they're getting attention from somewhere,
I see.
and a lot of them are not available. They're not available,
Oh, so you're
and so
saying, uh-huh.
so if you can't meet somebody within 48 hours and they're from your area where, they're going to take you to their house, they can come to your house to really see how you live, how they live. I would not go there at all. Not at all.
Yes, because if they're close by and they refuse to meet you, there's some
So there's something wrong. Yeah,
reason, right? Okay.
there really is. Anybody should be able to get available for an hour or so, within 48 hours of connecting on the internet. Otherwise, you're making up this false relationship that's based in nothing.
Yeah.
They can lie their fannies off, and so
Oh,
could you.
right. They can lie their fannies off and have pictures to prove it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So you really, if you're going to date, you need, and you're going to go on dating sites, you need to be able to meet them in a safe public place within 48 hours.
So
That's
do
my
people
guidance.
do people get in touch with you when they are starting a relationship somehow, sometime?
Yeah. Yeah. They want me to read the person that they're dating.
And
They,
how do
they
they
don't.
and how do they get that person to agree to it?
Oh no, I don't read the other person on the phone. I read the other person through them. I
Oh,
connect to them energetically and read them.
oh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. It's really clear.
it's a mysterious business you're in, isn't it?
I don't think so. It's just physics, energy, frequency, and vibration. There isn't one of us that hasn't thought about somebody we haven't heard from in a long time.
Oh, yes.
And the phone rings and it's them. Well, okay, well,
Yes.
who sent who the message?
Oh, that happens all the time. Or
All the time. Yeah. So everybody's doing this.
or I haven't
I just want to make it so they're doing it more, because you can have a better life with it.
Okay, so I have had the experience, and I'm never alone. I guess everybody has had this, but I haven't spoken to a good friend. Life gets busy and whatever the reasons, maybe for 4, 5, 6 months. And I'm just thinking of them, and like I pick up the phone and dial, and I say, "Hi, it's Jana." Oh, I was just sitting down to call you.
Yep. Yep. It happens
And
to
they
people all
always
the
say,
time.
"Isn't that odd?" And I say, "No, not at all."
It isn't odd.
Two people who
No.
care about each other can go about the same amount of time,
Right.
and they each say, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Or
you
the
just
phone
pick up where
rings
you
and
left
you
off.
know who it is.
Yeah. So we're all doing it anyway. And I just want to make
Right.
it, that's why I wrote 3 books. I want people to learn how to use these abilities that they're born with. These
Which,
are not gifts. People who do this are not special. They've just developed their ability. I think people that do art or music, those people are gifted. But me, no, this is
well,
just
okay, but
abilities.
that's a nice point you bring up, because I have spoken to people who are, you know, musicians, and it comes so naturally to them
Yes,
that they
it
don't
does.
consider it special either.
I know, but those are gifts. Those are really gifts.
I
And some
but
of the young kids that are really talented,
yes,
that's a past life thing. They brought their talent forward,
I
from a
I
past life.
I tend to believe that.
You
I've
bet.
seen I've seen what seems to be so much evidence of it,
Oh gosh, yeah.
but most people just roll their eyes.
No, if you think about reincarnation and you want to go, you have to think about a life force, life energy. That's physics again. It's energy. You cannot destroy energy. You can only change it. So life energy can go from physical form to physical form and also exist non-physically in between times.
Well, Oliver Sacks, in one of his books that was, everything he does is so exceptionally illuminating. And he talked about hallucinations, and that people used to have them all the time and they were just a normal part of life. Now, people who have hallucinations now, I think, don't mention it because they don't want to be carted off or
Right.
committed by the family.
Well, I think a lot of people that are in mental health facilities, a lot of them are either extremely intuitive and they don't have no control over it, or they have a walk-in where the spirit of somebody who passed walked into them, and they don't know how to act because they feel like two people in one body. That happens too.
I've heard that. I've heard
Yeah.
that.
I have a horse that has a walk-in. My friend Linda, who died, walked into my horse. She changed overnight. And I mean, she was very non-reactive with you. And
No,
then
no,
all of a sudden,
what does all this mean? Can you explain this in a little simpler way?
it's just physics. My friend Linda, she always threatened to come back as one of my horses because they're so spoiled.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh, that's what
every
you
time
call a walk-in?
yeah, and every time I was out there, I would feel her and sense her. And so this horse overnight changed into where she picks up her dish when she's done eating and hands it to you. She does zippers, she does Velcro, she'll take your hat off, she gives kisses all of a sudden. And it's more like a slime facial, is what it is. It's not just kisses.
Right.
It's really awful. But she changed overnight. And so every time I'm out there, I feel Linda. And so it's pretty interesting.
Yes. The whole world of the unknown is really interesting.
But it still all comes down to physics. I have people arguing all the time, like, "Oh, I saw a ghost." Okay, so did you pick up on negative energy that was shed off from a human when it passed, or did you pick up on the positive energy of somebody who's on the other side but also visiting here?
Mhm.
What? They go, "What do you mean?" Well, it's either one or the other. It has to be energy. It's either positive or negative. If you're picking up on negative energy, you're dumpster diving. You're basically picking up on the garbage somebody left behind, which is
Mhm.
where you can get fear and anger and rage and feel all this stuff, from just energy. And then if it's somebody like my mom visiting me every morning at 8 o'clock for coffee, that's her on the other side,
So nice.
and it's
So
all
nice.
positive.
Now, let me ask you, would you please tell us the titles of your 3 books?
Oh, I'd love to. My
Please.
first one is called The Cowgirl Shaman Way: 7 Easy Steps to Develop Your Intuitive Ability. And this one covers pretty much, everything that I do, and it teaches you the 7 steps, and so that you can learn to do it too. And you can, learn to do it for a living too.
Okay.
Even pick out one part of it. I only want to talk to dogs, or I only want to talk to horses, or I just want to be a medium. Go do it. And the second one I wrote, I didn't want to write it, but my guide said, "No, you have to do that now." And that's because there's 7 to 9 million people in the United States that cannot communicate due to an illness, injury, or disease.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that one's called Intuitive Communication: Communicating with People That Cannot. And then the book that I put out last year that I'm really excited about is called The Physics of Mediumship. And with this book, I really wanted to take all the BS out of it. And the subtitle that I wanted is called Cut the Woo Woo Crap. But my publisher wouldn't do that. So he did it on the inside title page.
Okay. Nice. Now, excuse me, let me ask you, because I am largely about the power of letters, the power of love letters, which is a huge, broad spectrum of what passes for a love letter. Do you ever write letters?
Yes, I use letter writing as a process. Whenever there's someone that's hurt me or taken my power, and of course I recommend this to my clients too,
Do you?
I tell them to write a letter to the person who took your power, tell them off, and then you burn the letter while you say out loud, "Nobody's ever going to treat me like that again." And that allows you to take your power back.
Okay,
Because
let me ask you this, just because I'm, not that you shouldn't, if you feel the need, write those kind of letters. And I've written a couple of hate letters myself. I know what happened to them. For mine, they got tossed in the wastebasket. I don't think anybody read them. But is there a way of doing the same thing by a letter of understanding and compassion, saying, "I know that when you did this, you didn't mean to blah, blah, blah," and just somehow appealing to their better sense to make the same point?
that's a really good point, but this is about processing out negative garbage, pain, suffering, hurt that is making people physically ill.
Right.
Okay. Disease is issues in the tissues. We're 99% energy, 1% physical. So our emotions, our stuck negative emotions, are what makes us sick. And so to me, this is the first step. Too many times people will try to go to forgiveness.
Oh, I was going to ask about that.
They will try to go to forgiveness before they have processed out the anger and rage.
Okay.
And if they do that, it's like it forms an abscess. It really does, and it will make you sick.
Let me ask you. So first of all, I like that issues in the tissues. I'm going to be smiling at that for a week. Okay. So what about a forgiveness after you've done what you say to do?
Right.
What about following it up? And I say this only because I know from personal experience and seeing it in workshops that when people are writing all the angry stuff, they're feeling some issues in the tissues.
Sure.
And when people turn it around at some point to do a forgiveness letter or an understanding letter, because too often forgiveness letters put you in the position of, being the forgiver. It's not a great place to be. And if you follow it up with a letter of understanding and compassion, you end up bathing in the positive, which does give you a whole other power.
Exactly. But what I'm dealing with is people who are sick because they're consumed by anger, rage, and disempowerment. They're sick. So yeah, that can be the next step once they get healthy.
Okay.
We always want to go to forgiveness because lack of forgiveness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So I agree. But I'm working with people that they're not even aware they have all this anger and rage, and they go, "No, I forgive him." But you forgot a step. You forgot a step.
Right. Okay.
And I want them to go back and do that, get rid of that anger and rage step, because that's what causes disease.
Right. Well, I want to thank you for doing this with me.
Oh, it's great.
It's so nice meeting you. I mean, yes, when we first met, I could see with that smile that you're having a whale of a time in life.
Oh gosh, yes, absolutely. It's really funny that I turned 70 Sunday, and I just think I had to wait all this time for it to get really, really good. It's like, oh well, I'll take it when I can get it.
That's right. Good for you. Well, and I was just going to say, I'm glad we had this little chat about letters, because you make a good point that sometimes the anger has to precede the ability to be compassionate and understand where the other person is coming from to have been so destructive.
Exactly.
That takes some doing and some real thought.
Yeah, but it's so healing. It's so healing when you can do this. But remember to burn the letters and say out loud, nobody's ever going to treat me like that again.
Okay, so you haven't actually sent that letter. Let's be clear on that.
No, they're not to send. And this is why it even works for people who have passed away.
Oh, I believe in writing letters to people who are gone. I do it myself. Yes.
Yeah.
But okay, so extra good point that, yes. So you haven't sent the letter.
No.
So you haven't done anything destructive in return.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you.
No, it's not to send, because it doesn't do any good anyway. Because if you think about somebody who hurt you in your childhood, molested you, or sexually abused you or something, they're not the same person now they were back then.
Well, from your mouth
they're
to
not,
God's
they're
ear,
not, they're usually not, doing it anymore or whatever. Right. Maybe their perversion is gone.
Right.
So you're not the same person, and you definitely are not the same person. So it only is a matter of you processing out your negativity, your anger, your rage.
Thank you. I'm glad we made that extra clear. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because you're not going to change them. And it doesn't do any good.
Although I must say, in my own experience, when you write the letter of understanding to somebody who has hurt you, let's say you've gotten rid of the rage yourself, that you're in a position, you may well change two lives, yours and the other person's.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. But a lot of times when you bring up stuff that they did, that they've got amnesia about it. They don't even remember they did it.
I'm sure.
So again, it doesn't make any difference. This is about you healing you. That's why I recommend.
Okay, good. I'm glad you made that extra clear. Thank you, dear. I hope we'll get to talk at some other point. And anytime, whatever we covered here, I'm aware is the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, this is great. Yes.